Hi, 7th grade world history students. This week you're going to have a World War II document project that you're going to be completing for a quiz grade. You do have all week to work on this, and on your lesson plan, I have pasted out for you. You can work ahead. I do not recommend waiting till the end of the week and trying to do this all at once, but you may go at your own pace. It is important for you to print out this form right here because it tells you what is required for your project. On your lesson plan, I did not give all the details, so you will need to refer to this paper each day as you're working on it. The important part right here is what must be included, and this is where you will find the details. So it has 1 through 11. And on your lesson plan, I will mention write a 6-sentence paragraph about how the U.S. entered World War II, but the actual questions on what you need to include will be found on this form. Here is an example of a document project that I have created. So you must have the title of World War II, and you can be creative with that, and the dates of the war. You will also need to include, just copy and paste, a timeline of the war. One of your paragraphs is about what triggered the war, and on your paper it will ask you the questions that you need to include. You need to talk about what happened to Germany at the end of World War I with the Treaty of Versailles, how Germany was held accountable for the war and heavy sanctions were placed against it, how dictators rose in power in different countries in Europe, such as Germany, Italy, and Spain. Remember, Japan already had a dictator. What did Hitler desire to happen to Germany? He wanted to expand their borders. He wanted to take over other European countries and become a world power. So you're going to be writing at least 6 sentences about this information. Make sure your titles for each category are large and they're bold. You can choose the font, you can choose the color. Another paragraph you're going to be writing about is the progression of World War II. What events happened, what order, how did one event lead to the next? So this is also at least 6 sentences. So who attacked first? How did France and Britain respond? What was Hitler's strategy for World War II? What countries did he overpower? You don't have to list every single one, but I need to know that you understand how quickly Hitler moved through Europe and what his strategy was. The notes that I gave you a couple weeks ago about World War II will be very beneficial for you. You need to have the Axis powers and the Allies. Choose your font. I did not list them all here because I want you to make sure you're doing your own research, but just here's an example. I've chosen to include this image right here, and you can choose what you would like to include on yours. You will be writing a paragraph about how did the U.S. enter World War II. Again, make sure you have a title for each section. You need at least 6 sentences about how the U.S. entered the war, who attacked the U.S., where did the U.S. focus their efforts initially. Remember, the U.S. didn't go immediately to Europe once we were attacked. The U.S. spent the majority of their time in the Pacific fighting the Japanese. How did the U.S. end up in Europe? You need to have a color-coded map of the world from World War II. This map shows the Axis powers in red, including Japan over here, and then the Allies in yellow. You need to have a section about U.S. leaders during World War II. On the information sheet, it tells you exactly which leaders I want you to include. For each one, you need to have at least 2 sentences about them, and I would like for you to have an image of him. This one's President Roosevelt. It says he was the 32nd President of the United States. He was the only president to serve more than 2 terms. He was president from 1933 until he died in 1945 from a hemorrhagic stroke. Roosevelt led the U.S. during World War II. He called the attack on Pearl Harbor a date which will live in infamy. So that's the information I found. I do not want anyone to copy this paragraph. Make sure you find your own information. Even if you include some of what I wrote, put it in your own words. Here is General MacArthur. So General MacArthur played a prominent role in the Pacific during World War II, which means he led battles against the Japanese. After the war, he oversaw the U.S. occupation of Japan. So once the war ended and the U.S. Kept troops over in the Pacific and Japan, General MacArthur was in charge of that. He is known for smoking a pipe made from a corncob. So the image I included shows him smoking his corncob pipe. You also need to have General Eisenhower, General Patton, and President Truman. You will have a paragraph about the end of World War II. You can decide what kind of title you want to give to this section. At least 6 sentences. Here's the information you need to include. D-Day, when the Allies stormed the beaches of France, when Germany invaded Russia, which was a big mistake for Germany because they had made a pact not to attack Russia, and then they went against that. But they could not handle the winter, the weather there, and their equipment started failing, and they ended up needing to surrender. You need to talk about how Hitler died, and it wasn't long after that that the Germans surrendered, but the war did not end there. Make sure you include what happened in Japan, because the war did not end until Japan surrendered. A bonus opportunity here is to include some facts about World War II. This is one section that you can copy and paste the facts. Just make sure you include the documentation of where you found this information online. So I thought these facts were interesting. It says 4 out of every 5 German soldiers killed in the war died on the Eastern Front. So that means they died fighting the Russians over on the eastern side. Only 20% of the males born in the Soviet Union, which is Russia, in 1923 survived the war. So they were either killed as civilians. 80% of the males born in 1923 were either killed in battle or as a civilian. In World War II, the youngest serviceman was your age. He was age 12. He lied about his age so that he could enlist in the U.S. Navy. The Siege of Stalingrad, which was a battle that happened in Russia, it resulted more Russian deaths, military and civilian, than the US and Britain sustained combined in all of World War II. So here is an image that I copied and pasted from Stalingrad. And at the bottom, make sure you include the links to the sites that you used. Here are some that I accessed information from. On Wednesday for our Zoom, we will be going over your projects just to see if anyone has any questions. Again, when you're looking at your lesson plan, make sure each day before you go to write the paragraph that you access the document project information sheet so that you're including everything that is on that information sheet. I will be grading based on the requirements that I've asked you to include. I hope you have fun with this project. We're going to do a similar one next week about the Holocaust. Again, you have all week to do it. I do recommend you turn it in before Monday because on Monday of next week, we will be starting a new project. Take care, guys.